Alright everyone, things are definitely heating up in Venezuela. This has been something a lot of people have wanted me to comment on because a lot of people are just ignoring the issue. It's like, oh yeah, a significant Latin American state with, at least locally, a significant military presence with, the largest oil reserves in the world. It might collapse at any time. It's basically collapsed already, but it's still... somehow it's straggling on. It's like a corpse that you've brought back to life and it's still staggering to and fro like a zombie. It's a zombie nation, essentially. It was the term you could use for it. That's what it's become. Right now, you've got all sorts of problems. Venezuela is now so broke that it looks like their Miami consulate may close because they can't pay the rent. That is literally their main diplomatic presence there in a very important place for sort of the Venezuela, Cuba, U.S. politics, that sort of trifecta of nations. They might not even have a consulate. Like, what are they going to do? Have, like, the Cubans pay it for them, probably. Here, can you pony up the $100,000 or something that we owe? Because we can't pay the bill. All the money in Venezuela combined probably isn't worth that much on the world market. I mean, the money there is basically monopoly currency at this point. It's not backed by a functioning economy. The economy there shrank so much, it's not capable of generating enough jobs for the citizens there. What's the unemployment rate in Venezuela right now? It's certainly in the dub. It's certainly not like the unemployment rate here in the United States. There's the glory of Bernie Sanders' utopian socialism. And yeah, people don't have to work hard anymore. The government just gives them, bread and soup. And they don't have to work, because they're just going to be slaves, basically. That's the way a socialist economy needs to prop itself up. Socialism in the centralized, the intervened-in sense, not necessarily on the end of redistribution on its own. But that's only one part of the problem right now. Another part is the opposition is now boycotting the election. Now here's why. Maduro will win because it's a rigged election. It's fairly straightforward. There's no way that Maduro won the last time around fairly. There's no way that Maduro's people won last time around in a legislative sense. It's impossible. Even the polling by state news agencies shows Maduro and his entire party basically, 30, 40 points down from the opposition. Their popularity doesn't even exist. They shouldn't have a single position within the government. Therefore, we can tell, they might have cooked the books a little bit with the election. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that they intimidate anybody who comes to the polls and says they're not voting for Maduro. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that they close polling places outside of areas where Maduro has given people a lot of extra subsidies. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that they just make up the numbers and they don't even really count the ballots. That's what a Venezuelan election is like. This is what elections in a lot of countries. Meanwhile, people here are worried about a Facebook ad propaganda swung the election because it was targeted at Wisconsin, which is, totally wrong. It's like, yeah, I bought some ads on Facebook. Everyone else doesn't bother anymore because Facebook is dumb. No, but that swung the election. Just trust us, you dumb fucks. The establishment's here to look out for you. Uncle Sam will keep you safe. Big Brother's always watching. It's the sort of stuff we have to suffer through. They want our elections to be like Venezuela. Basically, people voted for Trump, but don't listen to that result because the establishment says it's a bad idea. Hail socialism. And you've got another problem. Guyana's now built a couple of small military bases along its border with Venezuela, and it's only the latest country to do that. Colombia and Brazil are already doing the same thing. They're getting very concerned for several reasons. Number one, over 500,000 Venezuelan migrants, over 1 million total now living in Colombia. 1 million people have fled. The population commensurate with a large city or even some small countries is now expat living in Colombia alone. They also go to Brazil, they go to Guyana, and there have been border incursions. Venezuelan troops are now crossing the border attempting to raid things, probably to get supplies that they know are worth a small fortune on the black market in Venezuela. You can get a crate of toilet paper into the country of Venezuela and you can live like a king. It's worth way more than the money's worth. You could almost use toilet paper squares as currency. Just draw a little number on them. It doesn't really matter. You can form your own. And then, here's even funnier. Maduro's like, we're announcing a new cryptocurrency. It's going to be gold-backed. Gold-backed cryptocurrency for Venezuelans to use. So in other words, Venezuela is trying to take a turd and paint it over and pass it off as just a colorful rock at this point. Venezuela's economy doesn't exist. How much gold does Venezuela even have? Who the fuck is going to use your cryptocurrency, dude? People might get into it because it's gimmicky for a while. That's about all that they'll end up doing. It'd be hilarious. I would buy a little bit of Venezuelan crypto myself just because it'd be worth like a penny a piece. And so it's like, oh, well, if it doubles to 2 pennies, I made a few cents. Okay. I played World Speculator. I bought 1 million, Petro coins, I think these go Petra coins or something. Some gold-backed crypto. I bought 1 million of them. They went up by a cent. Woohoo! I feel so rich now. That's basically what'll end up happening. Venezuela has so many problems. And again, as always, it's not Maduro's fault in a primordial sense. A lot of people are like, oh, fuck Maduro, hang Maduro. Yeah, he's responsible for continuing shitty policies, but Chavez is the one that built most of those policies. Chavez, during the oil sale days there, during the good times, never really invested in any aspect of the economy other than oil. Well, that becomes the problem because you've got one main export, which is crude oil. So if the cost suddenly of that product drops precipitously because, even though you're the largest, as far as oil countries, you don't control the oil price. There are a bunch of other people you have to compete with. The price all of a sudden collapses, off a cliff. Yeah, you're losing a lot of money because your entire economy is built on that one thing. They should have invested in other aspects of the economy, making things more efficient. Lasting infrastructure, not just empty shell buildings and people having microwaves. It's great for quality of life. It's great for your popularity. You're subsidizing everything, giving people freebies. But it doesn't lead to a better economy. This is the sort of thing Bernie Sanders wants to do in this country. Centralize as much as possible. Subsidize as much as possible. Equalize as much as possible. You will end up with the same problem. The problem is, once the government gains the capability of full centralization, it will tend to favor those things that are cash crops. It's going to favor the cash crop. It's going to favor the big heavy hitter of the economy. Because of that tendency towards single-mindedness, towards less diversity in the economy, unfortunately, the second you have a downturn in one of those things, you have a Soviet-style economic problem or a Venezuelan-style problem. That's all on Chavez, though. It's not Maduro's fault. By the time Chavez took over, there weren't enough good years left for Maduro to really have done anything at all. What Maduro should do, if he's a good person, is step down and let the opposition take control. Let them be corrupt socialists instead of him socialist on steroids. They're still left-leaning. It's not like they're actually, far-right or whatever Maduro talks about them being. That's like saying that Front National is far-right. No, they've got a leftist economic platform. They just believe in borders. The opposition in Venezuela, they're not far right. They're socialists who happen to believe, hey, maybe we should play a little bit nicer with the world community and diversify the economy. Now, put a little bit of it towards, some other thing other than oil. Oh, you're far right, say the hardline Red Guard sort of socialists in Venezuela. Well, that's your problem. You're the ones that screwed up the economy. Nobody else has run anything in Venezuela other than socialists for however many decades. Anything that happens there is your fault. It's just like anything that happened in the U.S., it's the fault of the Democrats and the Republicans. The Demopublican Party, the one-party system here, is responsible for all of our problems. Nobody else has had any power for over 100 years. So you know who's responsible. That's really a problem within our country, too. Only we've got a diversified economy. It's not just, hey, we sell oil. That's the one thing that we sell. No, we also sell like guns and tanks and bombs and stuff. Corn, oddly enough. Construction material, raw steel, certainly, refined and crude oil. Natural gas, coal, everything under the sun. Gold, silver, diamonds. We got a little uranium. We got a little bit of everything in the United States, which is why we've done well. Thankfully, there are a few things that we have that most countries don't have. But then again, there are other countries. China has the rare earth, along with the Korean peninsula, which is exactly why they maintain them as a vassal still. It's not because of their strategic location. So in Venezuela, the opposition's not even apparently interested in electioneering now, because they're like, well, it's going to be unfair, so who cares? Other states are prepping for, I think, both waves of migrants from Venezuela as well as more border incursions. As things worsen in Venezuela and instability grows, there could be an all-out war within the country. They don't want soldiers spilling over into their borders and conducting attacks on their territory. Thankfully for the people around there, other than Guyana, the Brazilian and Colombian militaries are more than capable of dealing with the Venezuelans. Guyana's not. Maduro openly talked about annexing about half of Guyana, and unfortunately, if he were to do that, it's not clear who would actually intervene. It's not clear what other country would be willing to go to war with Venezuela to defend Guyana. I assume at that point it would have to be a Latin American coalition. Couldn't be us. We can't get involved. We land our troops there, a butchery will ensue because the great Satan's landed, so everyone takes up arms, including a lot of people who don't even like Maduro. They would fight against us and they would side with the Socialist Party there before they would go along with the U.S. Even if we were to shower them with food and money and everything else, it wouldn't even matter. It's too much propaganda involved. That's about all. Peace out.